What's going on, world? Welcome to another edition of the Black Mental Health Podcast. I'm your host, Reg. Joined today with me is a very special guest. Anytime I can get brothers on to talk about mental health and have those conversations that they say men don't have, although I think that narrative is changing a lot. Without further ado, I'll let you introduce yourself because I never like to botch anybody's intro. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Yes. So good evening, everyone. My name is Giscard Saintil. I'm a licensed mental health clinician in the state of Massachusetts. I've worked in the field within various positions for almost 11 years now. Residential placement, in-home therapy, school-based therapy, in-home behavioral services. So I've been busy in the state of Massachusetts. But I'm blessed to be here. I'm a big fan of your series, Reginald, so I'm ready to dive in.
Great to have you, and especially of a man of your magnitude and all the work that you're already doing. I'm happy to have you on because there's so many angles we can go. I don't know if we can fit it in this short amount of conversation, but I would like to start, like, how did you get into the mental health field? What inspired you to get in there?
So growing up, in my old neighborhood, a lot of my close friends would often get in trouble for stuff, over and over, almost as if there was no awareness of the consequence that would follow as it would before. And, I started wondering that it's not that my boys are bad people. They're not bad kids. There's something that's just not connected because they keep repeating the same behaviors to a point where many of them were in and out of jail so often. So always in the back of my mind, I was like, there's something deeper. And it's not until I got older and reconnected with some of these friends, they shared with me that, Giscard, I didn't realize I was diagnosed with schizophrenia or I'm diagnosed with bipolar. So that re-solidified my thought process that there was something deeper. I just didn't know what to label it. And it's not until I got older and graduated more in my field, I was like, okay. So my instinct was already there to question things further than just a surface level behavior. Another major factor that stood out for me to kind of pursue being a therapist was the lack of representation. In my school settings, even my hospital visits when I go for like a physical with my family. Anytime I heard the word counselor or in school, if I was acting up or got in trouble, it was mostly a young white female. And not to say their services towards me weren't helpful, but I always yearned for someone who looks like me. In a situation where I'd get in trouble and wanted someone to kind of better understand maybe where the trouble I was causing was coming from. Or even my hospital check-ins before I left, like after I got my shot, just my parents were like, oh, that's a counselor, that's a psychiatrist. And it was always either a white young female or a white male. So just the lack of representation was a huge factor, I'd say, that really pushed me to kind of go in the field of psychology and help our people.
Now, when you got the information, because I know for me, I'm still going through it now, and I'm not even a licensed professional, but just bringing that information back to your boys, like, how was the reception with it, bringing that newfound information about the mental health world?
A lot of them, surprisingly, they welcomed with open arms when they realized that, oh, bro, you went for psychology? Oh, my therapist has what you have. It was shocking to them, for them to think one of their own who grew up went in that field. So a lot of them would come to me and ask me for resources. You got support groups. You need help getting a job. Can you just help me? Can you just better help me connect to resources and community that I feel my current clinician or PO doesn't understand? So a lot of open arms was given to me because one of them was in a position of the needs they were looking for.
Yeah, and that's why, and me and you talked off air about this when we talked before. Like, I feel like I'll do more damage galvanizing everybody to come, like, hey, look, it's a field over here that we can go into, as opposed to being in the one-on-one space. So I always salute people like yourself because it's hard being in, and mind you, I would only know from hearing stories, but they say the higher you climb the mental health ladder, it's less and less people that look like you.
Very true. Very true. And it still happens even now. I mean, Boston is pretty diverse, I'd say, in terms of different fields. In counseling, I'd say, or, mental health counseling / social work, there's more, I'd say, in the demographics of the Black community, is more women in those roles than men. So even though the higher I climb, yes, there's still more, the population is mostly white clinicians, white doctors, but there's a very, very small number of Black male mental health clinicians or Black male social workers. So when they hear that, I come into a room and I'm a licensed clinician, they do a double take. It's like, wait, what? I remember during one interview for a job, she's like, you're licensed and you speak Haitian Creole? Because I have a Haitian background. She's like, okay, can we start tomorrow? Because they're just not used to not only a Black male in this field, but a Black, even Caribbean male. It's just mind-blowing for many of the positions I've either interviewed for or networked in.
Now, and that was something else that I wanted to, well, first, before we transition to that, because I want to talk about the Caribbean part of it, but, or Caribbean, however, tomato. Talk about the job market for the mental health field when you're coming from the Black community. What's the job market like?
Job market in terms of opportunities or salary range, like in what regard?
Both, either
Right.
or, both.
There is vast opportunities in this field. I think, unfortunately, growing up, mental health or social work field has a negative connotation that you won't make enough money. It's a poor person's field, but it's very, and I say it's humbly, lucrative when you have the right credentials and trainings and just networking abilities. So, and every state differs too, depends on the need of services, depending where you live. I can only speak from personal experience in Boston, Massachusetts. It's a big mental health field. So there's a lot of opportunities in my state. And it's all about your networking, putting yourself out there, getting the training you need, and not just stopping at the sub-level surface of after grad school. So I'm here to just let everyone know the mental health or social work field can be very good to you, not just in terms of finances, but also the essence of what you want to bring to community, because they need us out here to represent them better.
Now, and I had a licensed clinician. I'm just dropping everything in here. I had a licensed clinician on before. He was talking about Aaron Muller, how black male therapists are unicorns, and even black therapists are unicorns in general. And so they were talking about how lucrative the opportunity can be because, like you said, they were excited. Like, can you start tomorrow? Once you in it, and just my short span of being in here, just getting these little, I don't want to say little, but to make them seem significant. But I mean, bare minimum things have opened up so many doors and opportunities. So I can only imagine as a licensed clinician, how many doors have opened up for you on your end.
Yes. And to your point, Reginald, the thing about mental health field, you never know enough. And I think that's what keeps me hungry for this. There's always more to learn. There's always new research coming out, new treatment interventions, new ways of approaching families and children. So anyone who enters this field, and I already salute you for the vast knowledge you're already gathering, because you don't have to gather this knowledge, but the fact that you're pursuing it, I commend you in many ways for that. But that continual pursuit of knowledge in this field is limitless. You can never say, all right, I know everything I need to know about depression, schizophrenia, because by tomorrow there's a new way of better assessing someone. Even like what we call assessments or tests, growing up, there's a lot of what they call the Beck Depression Inventory or the Whistler test for education. I'm starting to do my own research towards finding more culturally based assessments. So when it comes to racism, there's a racism rating scale that many of the grad schools in America and many clinics don't have. So our own people have our own unique assessments that I'm hoping to bring alongside many others to the forefront, because many times the past, the commonly based European assessments, unfortunately tend to misread our people, especially when it comes to cultural practices. They may consider, someone talking to spirits, warding off spirits in a household. If someone were to enter a clinic with a white female-based clinician or a white male, they'd be like, okay, voices, hallucinations, that's schizophrenic. Let's dig a little deeper. Why not ask further questions as why do you feel you need to do that practice? Where do you learn that from? So there's more to learn, not just the traditional European-based teaching of psychology, but even our people now are coming to the forefront with new models of research and assessing our children and adults.
And I'm glad. All right, so now this is me mental health nerding out right now because I'm, like you said, having a thirst for knowledge and not like being at the. I just learned like because I'm starting to get the credentials and stuff. Before I was just coming up like mental health. Hey, it's like we need to support it, depression, da da da. But once I started diving into the terminology behind some of this stuff, I started to turn into a real like give me more, give me more. So even when you say like there's always something new to learn, I would love to hear your thought on the ACEs because Tasmin Suleiman, founder of Black Man Hill, she always talked about how it isn't culturally competent, and they surveyed a bunch of Caucasian that wasn't fit for Black people to take that test. What's your opinion on the ACEs?
ACEs. So with the ACEs scale, I know the essence of it is really to kind of dig deep to find out how certain factors that affect
Oh,
us.
wait, before you explain it, what is the ACEs? Tell them what the ACEs is, because
Okay.
I'm going to do a bad job, and then you can give your opinion on it.
Okay, so the ACEs, from what I remember, is just more. I don't want to say it's more like a pyramid design, but it starts to analyze certain factors, things that happen to us as children, or things that we're deprived of, have a more likelihood to increase our risk of trauma or the mental illnesses. So ACEs is like the basic needs, almost in a sense, whether it affection from parenting, food, shelter, clothing, finances. It's all the things that every human should get, but the more that you're deprived of as a young child, the more likely you are to move up into the likelihood of developing a mental illness or even medical illnesses because of those deprivations.
I was bringing it up as you were talking, but my Google isn't fast enough to bring it up for
No
some reason.
worries. Hopefully I
Hold
did
on.
the definition justice.
No, you did. You said it's a pyramid. Hold on. I think I got it. You can see that?
There you go.
Okay.
Yes,
So
yes.
why does this testing disproportionately affect us?
Wow. Great question. The history of our people. You look at things like generational embodiment, historical trauma. When we look at historical trauma, the way this ACEs pyramid was created, I doubt it took into consideration the Black history, the Black man or woman's experience. A lot of the families for almost 450 plus years were stripped apart and sent off to numerous places in the world. So you already have families that were broken for over 400 years that people are still trying to connect with right now. Conditions, as you move up the ladder, you think about environments people live in, our people especially. You think of social conditions they probably were referring to at that time, cold environments or environments where, those lack of, I won't say food or protection, but think about the projects. I mean, you have social conditions where people who live in the projects, these are small size, build home spaces where you have maybe 4, 5, 7 people living in one space, especially in the Black families. So that already will increase stress. That already will increase sometimes people becoming selfish to want to have more of this food portion than their sibling or even their own parent. So as I look at the rest of this pyramid, as we go up higher, disease and disability, social problems, I mean, racism as a whole continually still affects us. So you think about our people who try to go out and get loans from our bank to try to make something of themselves, who are usually denied. That can affect their mental health and just their motivation to want to work harder. Police brutality, as we're seeing, that definitely is a social aspect when it comes to impairment. Not trusting those who we pay our tax dollars to protect us. All these factors, I feel like we're already experiencing on a daily basis, just being Black people. So some of us don't even make it to the halfway mark of this pyramid, unfortunately, because there's so much upon us. We don't even, talk about early death. Let me rephrase what I said. I think we get to early death faster than white or Asian families because of all of the historical abuse, trauma, violence that's been put on us. So we are at our faster rate for dying, for developing mental illnesses. So this ACEs pyramid, as effective as it has been for psychology students or grad students or anyone wanting to learn about mental health, I feel like the sensitivity to our people wasn't really incorporated in this.
Nah, and I think that's great. You bro, you got that clear as day. Because as I learned, again, I'm just learning this because I'm curious about it, and I've
Mm-hmm.
learned that if we worried about the leaves of the tree and not the root is all the mental health conditioning and things around there. And because all I knew was I wanted to help people, but once I started to learn that the way you help people, you got to get all of the mental stuff cleaned up first before you
Yeah.
even can get into helping people. That's what made me get in the curiosity of mental health.
Mm-hmm. And if I may add on to that, Reginald, you talk about helping the mind first. Once the mind can be shifted, everything
Mm-hmm.
else will come at a slightly easier pace. Some of the work I do is I used to work as an in-home therapist, and there was a family I was working with, a single Black mom with a 16-year-old daughter, and it seemed like every other week I'd come in the home to work in the treatment plan. She'd ask, "Hey, do you have a Shaw's gift card? Running out of milk. We don't have enough groceries in the home." But then as the session continued, their daughter would come out with the freshest kicks. Came out. She's like, "Oh, hey, Giscard, I got the new Jordans, and I'm trying to get ready for school." I'm like, "Okay, they look nice." And then after Dawn went back to the room, I sat down with mom, and eventually, as time went by, I was able to have this conversation with her and approach her very respectfully. But I asked her, I was like, you were asking me for a Shaw's gift card to buy milk and bread. Where has your money been going? What's been going to finances? Oh, times are hard. I gotta have my cable. I need all my channels. My dollar fly. I was like, it's priorities. The mindset this parent has that my kid has to look fly to gain respect, admiration, and love, even if it costs us not eating for 2 days. So it's not till I start to break things down like that for the parent. At first, she was resistant. She's like, "Oh, you're trying to tell me how to buy things?" I said, "No, no, no. I approach you this way because I'm worried about what this will teach your daughter in the long run. Because one day she'll have children and she'll equate, hey, let's not eat per day, but my kid looks fly." So
Mm-hmm.
just shifting that small example was a game changer for the family.
How do
And
you how do you do that with how do you say, like, we talk about generational trauma. How do
Mhm.
you break the mindset? Because generational trauma is literally like the mindset that's been passed down. Even with something like racism is passed down, and that's
Mhm.
why it's hard for it to die. A lot of these traditions within the Black community and within our community is passed down. And how do you struggle with trying to change a parent, or not even change, heal a parent, so that way the child can be healed as well to continue the generation?
Great question. It all depends on the situation at hand. Every client or every family I approach differently. One example that comes to mind is a young teenage boy. He was from Barbados. And, talk about men too, in terms of them kind of leading the charge on breaking generational thinking or processes. So, emotions for him. This was a young boy whose father was very tough on him,
Mm-hmm.
um, never really opened with affection or hugging, never really gave his son the support he needed. So, during one session, his father had passed away, I believe, maybe 3 weeks before. So we're talking about his father, and I asked mom to kind of step away from the room, and I use what we call the Gestalt technique. Gestalt is a famous therapist. I would say in the early 1900s, yes, in the mid 60s, 70s. But he has a technique called empty chair technique. What this is that you take an empty chair, you place it in front of the client, and you encourage the client to talk to whoever hurt them or they miss, or any type of attachment a person had to that individual, and allow them to share what they wish they could have said or want to say when they meet with them. So imagine this is a boy I'm sitting with. I've been working for him almost a year, kind of very tough, big guy, no emotions. That's how his dad was. And even after his dad died, he never really processed that. I think he started being more aggressive in school and everything else. So during this one session, I put the chair in front of him. I said, "I'm gonna go stand behind you. I want you to face this empty chair and talk to your dad." He was like, "Bro, that's weird. Like, I ain't gonna talk to an empty chair." I was like, "Just try it. Just give it a try. I'm going to stay behind you. It took him a few prompts. But as he saw me kind of move away, and I was like, look at your dad's on that chair. What do you want to say to him? The kid started to just start crying and sharing things like, you never hugged me like I wish you could have. I gave you a birthday card I found in the trash. Just saying a lot of things. And as he was saying this, he started crying more and more. It was not till the end of the session, he said, I haven't cried like this since I was maybe 9. So imagine this is a young African-American male who hasn't cried in almost 12 years. And in that moment, I encouraged him to cry. He actually leaned on me. I gave him a hug. And in that moment, I told him, don't ever feel like you're too tough to cry. Because one day you have a son who will want to come to you in this way that your dad didn't allow you to. And let's not forget how vulnerable you were today. So in that one moment, I believe I put the seed in place so that when he has a son, this mindset of don't cry, don't show emotion was broken during that session. It was a very powerful session on that day. And again, just shifting the mindset as a whole when it comes to the situation at hand for our people, whether it's finances, how they see white people, how they see education or money. It's a lot of trying to break down, where did you get that mindset from? I've learned being in this field, Reginald, to stop saying, why are you doing what you're doing? Like, why did you do it? And now instead I ask, what happened to you? Because the way you're behaving, you're thinking came from somewhere. And I always tell every client, whether it's a child or adolescent, I'll never call you a bad kid. I will say you made bad decisions. I'll never label you. So just that type of dialogue when I first come in the home, when they come into my office at school, kind of sets a tone for them to be open to hearing what I have to say. And usually I assign homework assignments, go home and try to journal your thoughts. Just really helping shift the narrative of how they feel like they should deal with their emotions. And hope is that as the long run goes by, in the long run, I should say, the thinking their parents put on them can be broken in that session I have with them.
That's powerful. One of the things when I was studying, like building this podcast and trying to learn like the art of interviewing and getting great conversations, I think I learned it from Oprah, but she learned it from like Barbara Walters or something. She said they asked her like, what's the most important question you can ask a person? And they said is why. Instead of that's the most important. As long as you ask why, you can get a lot of information, because nobody really asks why. We just, just look at a person and we never go in and ask like why. And then mind you, you can keep on whying your way down. Like you ask a deeper why.
Yes. Very true. Very true. And some people are not able to respond verbally to why they did what they did. That's the great thing about therapy. Those who may struggle to say verbally, here's why I do what I do. I ask them to draw it out. Write a story. I try to use different approaches with my clients to get them to verbalize, what shaped them to become who they are today. So talk therapy is not for everyone. And I'm really mindful that whenever someone enters my office or I go into a home, I try to find out what their niche is. There's one boy who I used to work with 5 years ago who would play R&B songs at the beginning of each session to kind of set the tone for what's going on. Mom would be like, come on, just talk, come downstairs. I was like, Mom, we have to meet him where he's at. I think one session he played Music Soul Child's Half Crazy. Dun, 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 dun. I was okay, so let's dive in. What does that song mean for you? And it worked really well with him. So I think as clinicians, to those who are listening out there, it doesn't ever hurt to kind of expand our repertoire in a sense and meet the clients where they're at. We have a nice treatment plan. We're going to work on this and that. But the client may not be in the mood or in the mindset for that during that particular session. And I usually often let them lead. I allow them, you run today. I'll follow you. So you can have fun with it in this field, but of course, with a purpose. You don't want to just treat it like a hangout session, but be very meticulous in your approach and allowing the person to know, like, you do have a say in this treatment. So how do we go about this together?
And I think that's why people like yourself and other Black therapists out there are needed, because there's like this bland approach to therapy. And because there's not, for lack of a better term, flavor within there where you can relate in that manner, you can still get to the healing while doing it in a way, like you said, that still it has a treatment plan in place.
Yes. And you talk about flavor, Reginald. I love that you said that because I know so many examples. So I apologize. They keep popping into my head.
I'm
When
with
I was
you.
when I was working at a residential treatment center, it was a group home for adolescent young males and females of different cultural backgrounds. Many of them were displaced by family through DCF, which in Massachusetts is called the Department of Children and Families. Others, they have a home base, but because the behaviors are not really safe right now for themselves or community, they stay there maybe 2 or 3 days a week. There was one individual who was really disrupting the atmosphere at the residential home. Didn't want to really clean up his bedroom, his kitchen space, were just really struggling to follow protocol when it comes to especially hygiene. And he had a clinician before me, a white young male clinician, very great guy. We still talk to this day. Came from Ivy League school actually, so he knew all Freudian. He knew Carl Jung. He knew all the theories, probably better than I did. But he was struggling to get through to this kid. It's not till the case was transferred to me, Reginald, that I was like, when I met with the individual, let's say for example his name is Harry. I was like, Harry, what's the name of your lineup, bro? He's like, yo, chill. I was like, bro, I gotta take you to a barbershop. He's like, nah, it's not even like that. I haven't got money. I was like, if it's about money, we have what we call client. We have client funds, so we can, get a little card, or I can pay for it and get reimbursed by my agency at the time I was working. Reginald, I took him to the barbershop that night, to one of my many barbershops. He got a fresh cut. Came out, I think he had a high top bald fade with a ziggly line on the side. Within the next 3 weeks, bedroom was cleaned, kitchen area was cleaned up, went to school every day. You talk about flavor for our people, Reginald. A black man and a haircut is therapy by itself. No matter what you have, dreads, you're a bald, you're doing a beard, a haircut goes a long way. So that's why I say representation is so important in our field, because a white clinician, haircuts, hairstyles, yes, their culture does it, but it's not as appreciated as ours is.
Mm-hmm.
And after that haircut, and of course continual sessions, there was a shift. And the previous clinician who was working with him was like, Giscard, how do you do it? Like, what did I miss? I was like, it's not that you missed anything. It's just we connect on a different level. And the fact that we as a people know how important it is for good looks, I was able to catch that. They don't teach you that in grad school. Hey, when you meet a black clinician, when you meet a black child or a black girl, make sure her hair is braided. They don't teach you that in grad school.
Mm-hmm.
You grow up in that culture, you could bring that flavor to your work without it having to be learned in books.
Nah, it's true. And again, when I just me being at the, just in the surface level of it, I realized how important it was. I'm like, oh, they didn't know how to make that connection, even with these songs. And it's like, this kid is speaking pain. You thinking, all right, he just want to hurt somebody. It's like, no, he's going through it. Like,
Yeah.
and you're listening with two different ears. Like, I'm hearing the pain, you hearing oh, he's about to hurt me. And it's like, he's hurting. That's what's going on.
Exactly. Because the Half Crazy song is famous. It's a beautiful song about heartbreak and dealing with relationship. But you're right. To another clinician, you'd be like, "Oh, we should call it ER services because this person's gonna harm themselves." The song's called Half Crazy. I'm like, no. There's more to it.
Mm-hmm. But I think that comes with time, and like you said, growing up within the culture, that's how you can interpret it that way more so. It's almost like speaking two different languages. I always tell people mental health language has a language, and then the Black community has a language, and I'm here to try to combine the two so that way it could be a conversational piece for both parties.
Agreed. And you're doing a wonderful job thus far, I should say. I listen to your podcast often on the way to work. It motivates me to keep doing what I do. So you've already created a platform for many of us to continue to inspire what we're doing, whether we're therapists or doctor level. So thank you for what you're doing in our field.
I appreciate it, and likewise. So I do have a few more questions. I know I don't want to take too much of your time.
No worries.
You talked about I want to get to this Caribbean question, but I might not be able to get to it yet. How do you navigate those job barriers where you want to be able to put the quote unquote flavor on the job, but you also can't do but so much because of certain criterias and, things that you have to do that you want to make sure you don't get fired for doing certain things. So how do you navigate that as a clinician or somebody in the field?
So it all comes down to, whenever I meet with a family individual, I always explain what the dynamics are when it comes to especially things like mandated reporting. Mayday reporting is that anytime a client shares with me things like they can hurt themselves or someone else, I have to automatically report that to Department of Children and Family Services. So so that's something I share with my clients to kind of protect myself in my role, but also for their sake. But when me being from a Caribbean background and working with Caribbean families, it's a tightrope that I'm on, because you have Caribbean families who grew up, for example, when it comes to disciplining their children, where they're spanking. That's a big thing that people still are doing research on, talking about today. Your Caribbean families that talk about, they use the belt to keep their child in check. And whenever that's shared with me, I let the parent know, like, thank you for sharing that with me. Because most of the time they'll tell me, you know what, I've never told any other clinician this before because they're a different culture, but because you're Black, you'll get it. So they already have that comfort with me where they share that, I spank my child. But in that moment, I have to quickly step in and remind them, I get it. I understand why you do what you do. But here's the research that backs up why that long term is not effective, and also that it constitutes abuse in our field. So after I kind of put that out there, it's up to the family or client to decide whether they move forward with me or not. But a lot of families thank me for that transparency. Because unfortunately, I feel, Reginald, there's been other clinicians who work with some of the families I work with who also identify as Black, who weren't as straightforward, I should say. Some were more laid back than I was. So it kind of sent mixed signals, unfortunately.
I do have a question, because
Mhm.
I had a colleague who's white, and
Mhm.
he's in the counseling field, but he said, I want to make sure I phrase it right so I don't misquote him, but it was
Mhm.
something along the lines of a child that he was working with. The child that he was working with said that their mom was abusing them, and
Mhm.
abuse meaning, like what you said, beating them and stuff like that. And because the clinician heard abuse, it was like, I have to report this. And it was like, now I don't feel comfortable telling you nothing anymore,
Yeah.
because now I got to go home and deal with my mom, who just gonna whoop me even more. How do you
Mhm.
navigate that? Because he had that problem. It was like, he's white, so it was already a distrust in there in that way. And
Mm.
now, like, it's more distrust because now you done snitched on me, and now I don't feel like trusting you. How do you navigate that?
So to go back to your friend's example, for me, I always dig a little deeper. There's been times where a child or adolescent has said to me, "Oh, my mom or dad beat me." My training has taught me to dig deeper, reach out to the parent, or even have a session with everyone um, in the same room if it's safe to do so. I mean, if the kid is saying to me, like, you know what, I don't feel safe going home tonight, that bypasses everything, because this is a dire need where this kid's saying, I can't go home tonight, I don't feel safe. That's when I'm like, okay, I reach out to the parent and I will let the parent know, hey, just a heads up, here's what I heard. There's a fear in place. I do have to follow up and report this. But there's been other times where a kid will say, yeah, they're hitting me. And when I try to dig deeper, the severity or the seriousness of it is not there. So I always try to dig deeper, because I'm in a position where I have the power, in a sense, to either keep a family together or break them apart. And we live in a system already for our people, Reginald, that's been broken apart by the system in so many ways already.
Mm-hmm.
Be very careful with the power I have in my hands to not jump on, as your friend did act, mistakenly, because all he heard was abuse. So
Mm-hmm.
I won't say he did the wrong thing. He heard abuse, he filed, okay. But for us, knowing what our people have gone through with families being broken apart, I feel it's up to us to take a deeper look before we quickly file or call. So I try to dig as much as I can before I get DCF involved, because again, the child or family receiving services are ready because things go on in the home. If I jump the gun and not do enough digging within a timely fashion, of course, while keeping the kids safe, I can do more harm than good. A kid may say to me at 8 years old, my mom abuses me. And
Mm-hmm.
during a home session, mom will be in the bathroom, wash her hands. The kid will say, yeah, my mom abuses me. When I call mom back in the kitchen, if we're doing a home session, ask, Christopher says you abuse him. And I'll say, Chris, what does that look like? Oh, she twisted my ear last night.
Mm-hmm.
Happened. Oh, once a week, but it still hurts.
Right.
So I'm like, had I just heard my mom abuses me,
Mm-hmm.
it would have went a direction that would have been devastating. But by first of all, having him address that in front of mom and me talking to mom about better ways of approaching your child and how moving forward is not the best way, I think after that session, the she never not twist his ear again, but I think there was a good month that went by where mom tried interventions like send the kid to take space in the corner, the Nintendo Switch. So that was a teaching moment for them. And to this day, I know the kid tried to follow me on Facebook, but of course I keep my page private.
Right.
On his page, they're traveling the world together now. You know, and I believe they're both going to community college together, finish up their classes.
Wow.
Now imagine, Reginald, if I had said, "Oh, you're abusing Chris? Hi. Yes, I want to report an abuse case." All that progress since then would have been gone.
Vanished. Yeah, vanished in an instance. And I hope I'm gonna send this to him too because I wasn't clinically trained to give the advice that you just give because again you're looking at it from a lens like that like where he has one lens, you have another culturally competent lens.
Yes. Yeah. So
it's a big difference. Speaking of I don't want to use the word abuse because it sounds harsh. The discipline actions of Caribbean parents and
yes.
Mental health in the Caribbean community. Talk about your experience just being a clinician and being on growing up in a Caribbean household or growing up in a Caribbean community in regards to mental health and then mental health treatment, just everything in general.
Yes. Great questions. I wouldn't forgive myself if I don't also bring up the spiritual aspect also, because I think that kind of ties into Caribbean mental health, spiritual triad. I was born and raised in Boston, Mass. My family's from Haiti. So all the Haitians watching and listening, shout out to y'all.
C'est passé.
Naboule. So in many Haitian families, you know, there'd be instances where there was that one weird uncle or aunt who would talk to themselves, or they'd say they hear voices. And oftentimes during family gatherings, not my person, but other family friends I know, that uncle or aunt would be in the bedroom upstairs. You know, they bring food to them and put it outside by the door. You know, don't bother Uncle Ricky. You know, he's just having a hard time. And it's not till time goes by that when I would see these things or start asking questions to my friends, time goes by, they realize, no, Uncle Ricky's schizophrenic. Oh, we don't talk about that here. It's spirits. It's a devil. We have to pray for him. And I'm not here to say that prayer does not work. I'm a strong believer in God. I'm a strong Christian. But I believe you could still believe in God and have a therapist. Because the more you keep Uncle Ricky or Aunt Susie in that bedroom, isolated from everyone else, to not be embarrassed by that person, the more detrimental their mental health becomes. Because they are seeking help. They need help. Praying for them in that moment or for 5-10 years, you're doing more harm than good. So a lot of times when I meet with families from either Haitian backgrounds, Barbados, Jamaican, any Caribbean-based background that has a strong emphasis on spirituality, I have to help debunk what they think about mental health services, Reginald. I've had families who say, oh, the reason why my son can't stay in a good relationship because he's cursed by his great-grandfather who cheated 50 years ago. And I'm like, no, your son just lacks the ability to communicate well with women. You know, it's not a curse that's passed down. And a lot of, you know, let's not talk about this. Let's not have people in our business. Just mental health has an unfortunate stigma in our community. I think there's some progress. There's a lot of progress being made now. But a lot of times in the work that I do, Reginald, it's a lot of debunking myths and encouraging parents to have their children assessed for extra help if they need to be in school or medication. There's an example that comes to mind. I was working at a school and this individual was a Haitian young male. And he had shared with me in his language that, you know what, I'm tired of being picked on by these boys on the basketball team. I'm going to throw myself on the train tracks after school. And once he said that to me, I was like, how serious are you? I had to assess his level of suicidality. And it was pretty high. I called mom to say, hey, based on what your son shared with me, I believe it'd be best if you come pick him up, or what we can have is called the BEST team. It's like the emergency response team in Massachusetts that comes to assess like a child in school or home. The mom said to me in the language, "Li toujours dit ça," which in English translates as, he always says that. So just send him on the bus home. And I said to the mom, I can't do that. And even if you were to say that same phrase every Thursday at 3 p.m., I still have to assess and make sure he's safe. And that's when it kind of clicked for me why I feel I play a major role in this field. And I think many of us do, because how quickly would another clinician send that kid home? Because if another clinician would have heard, oh, you always say that? Okay, well, come on, don't do that. Be smarter, use deep breathing. This is a kid who's saying, I'm going to harm myself. And it was even more impactful because he's saying it in my cultural language. So really helping mom to even be open to the best team from the house. Because originally she was like, I don't want people coming to my home. It's not that serious. He always says this. You guys are blowing out proportion. Just let him come on the bus. I said, I cannot send him home today. And if you're refusing for us to send the best team to your home, I will have to follow up with a filing. And she almost got kind of shocked. She stayed quiet. But it had to be said, because whether or not their child was lying, I couldn't take the risk. And, many times do kids cry wolf and adults cry wolf? Yes. But it's not our job to assess this time he's lying and this time she isn't. So just having a Haitian mother kind of brush off a suicidal statement by their son was huge for me. I was like, yeah, I'm in this field for a reason. And she was open. Best team came by the house, and he had a reduction in suicidal statements. He still had his struggles in school, but there was definitely a reduction as time went by because he learned better skills to use when he feels bullied or frustrated.
And I think it's helpful to have different diverse, because as much as they think Black people are like the same, we have different layers to each one of us. And like, I'm fortunate enough to be a first generation American, but I still got to go back and kind of deal with some of the things from the Caribbean culture, especially against the LGBTQ community, especially against, like you said, mental health conversations. It's just a lot of layers to that I think it's going to take years to, debunk, to reform, to educate, because I think majority of it is education and knowledge. And it's going to take years, and I realize that, like, it just needs to be time and education will heal some of those myths in the Caribbean culture.
Yeah, and open-mindedness, to your point, just being open to trying something different, and not having this mindset whereas we want people in our business, or again, old saying, pray it away. The more we're able to kind of let down our guard as a people and be open to something else, I mean, sky's the limit at that point. Because imagine some of our parents or grandparents, there wasn't no therapy, and if there was, they're open to it. So it's up to us as this generation to help prepare the rest that comes after us to be open to mental health services, and numerous benefits come from it.
Yeah, and I think platforms like the internet and social media, because now it connected us to a sense of, now we can have these conversations and you don't feel like you're alone in your thoughts and your actions and your mentality and everything. And so it kind of serves its purpose, where now I think the shift will start to happen over the next couple of years when we start to, change a lot of these conversations that are happening in our communities.
Agree.
So as we wrap up, my last question is, and because a lot of your work is evolved around like family and, I don't want to say reforming, but restructuring the family. What do you think Black families needs to heal? And I know it's a broad question, but through your 11 years, I think that's what you said, 11 years of being in the field.
Yeah, almost 11 years, different positions, yeah.
What are some common themes or perspectives have you noticed over your time within the field that you think will help Black families heal?
Powerful question. Open-mindedness is the first step. I mean, one of the key factors. being more attentive to each other's needs, whether it's male, female, or however the individual identifies as. A supportive network is key to not only reducing the possibility of mental health illness coming up, but also helping someone manage their mental health illness. So Black families as a whole, being more supportive to one another, being open to different strategies to help your family grow. And education, to your point, Reginald, there's a lot of resources in the communities that we all live in. There's financial literacy classes, how to increase Black wealth in the family, engaging in more, going to the gym more. There's a lot of resources to help expand the Black family's ability to grow, not just mentally, but also as a family unit. So being open to different strategies outside of the norm, being more supportive of each other, and patience. You know, a lot of times parents tend to like, why can't you be like this, your brother or this sister? Why can't you be like the pastor's son, pastor's daughter? That comparing children to other people is very detrimental. So Black families as a whole is really starts up here to really start to shift the narrative of how you approach your family and how that's been going. And just having that unity, you know, the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. I think it takes a village to run a family. So sometimes in Black families I've seen where, you know, we don't talk to that aunt for 10 years because she owes me $5, or we don't talk to that cousin because they took my sneakers. Just breaking that cycle of we don't talk to that side or this side, coming together on peaceful terms can do wonders for the healing. So being more open to changing patterns of thinking and behavior, and educating yourselves on how to not only live longer, but live productively with the services that are in your community already.
That's powerful, and that's a powerful way to end. I thank you. You're a wealth of knowledge. I can converse with you for hours on
Same
the
here.
subject. Because I'm pretty sure you being in, I'm just starting my journey. You being in it for 11 years and having that and accrued so much knowledge. I just salute to you again for the work that you're doing, and thank you because I know it's so many other people, black women, Black men that look like us who need people to stand up, because I know it ain't easy every single day going to work and dealing with those different traumas, you know. Again, salute to you and thank you for coming on and sharing.
Thank you for having me. It's a blessing to be here, Reginald. Thank you so much.
No problem. And on that note, guys, follow, subscribe, leave a comment to the podcast. And remember that this platform has never been about a replacement to therapy. It's an alternative place where people share therapeutic stories. Thank you for listening.